welcome to What the Huck. Let me introduce my co host Henry, who might sometimes hear say, What the heck?
And this is my co host, Safie, who rather than saying what the heck, she usually says something different. In any case, this is our show, What the Huck. I'm going to lay it out right at the top of this introductory episode that we're not looking to be professional or even semi professional content creators of any sort. So, that being said, if we're not going to be professional content creators and we're not probably going to be putting out things on a regular basis, why are we making this show, Safie?
Well, for one, because you've been pestering for months and months about this show.
This is true.
But also, we both enjoy reading a lot. And at some point, we just thought, why not, interview authors for the books that we're reading? So that's my motivation, sharing the knowledge with the audience, with an audience.
Yeah, an audience. We'll see what kind of audience we get. So the listeners that are listening to this might be aware that I have my own show that I also do in addition to this, Guerrilla History, which I co-host alongside two other co-hosts. And we talk about history from a proletarian perspective, global history. But as Safie said, we read a lot about a bunch of different topics as well. So well, guerrilla history, I don't want to say constrains me to talking about certain topics. It certainly has its niche in terms of topics that it does cover.
Yeah, it has to be either guerrilla or history or both.
Yeah, and usually both. So on this show, we have a lot more freedom to cover really anything that we want. We can have free-form conversation just between the two of us, or we can have conversations with authors of works that we have been consuming, and also just some friends that are really smart people that have things that they can teach us and teach the audience. So I think that this show, it's going to have a lot more of a loose feel than guerrilla history for those of you who are familiar with it, a lot more conversational. And like I said, not any sort of consistent publishing schedule. It's just when we want to record something to talk about, I don't know, something that we had been recently doing or something that we had recently learned, or if we had recently finished a book and have an author that we can talk to, that's when we'll have something for you. So, don't expect anything like on a weekly basis or, on Tuesdays. When you get what you get, don't complain. So I guess the first thing that we should do is kind of introduce ourselves a little bit to the audience who are completely unfamiliar with us. Safie, can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself? What's your background? What field do you more or less work in? And what kind of things do you like to read about, I guess?
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, I'd like to say that I'm very excited about starting this show. And the field that I come from is linguistics, applied linguistics and ESL. English second, no, wait, English as a second language. Yeah, that's right. And the things that I enjoyed reading about the most, well, I read a lot of classics, like fiction classics, Russian classics, and also, like a couple of years ago, I really got into nonfiction.
I wonder why.
Again, because you'd been pestering me for years about it. But yeah, I've come across a lot of interesting topics, and I discovered a lot of new topics that I would have never thought I'd be interested in the first place. My most recent read, just like yours, is Dream Lovers by Alfie Baun.
Yes.
Which looks into how technology, like modern technology, influences and shapes our desire in the broadest sense possible.
Yeah, not only sexual desire, which is the desire that we typically think of, but also desire as a more abstract and philosophical notion as well, as from a psychoanalytic perspective, this book is operating in. And we'll be interviewing Alfie in just a couple hours, which we will not be putting it out a couple hours after this video / podcast. We're going to be uploading it on both YouTube and on Anchor as a podcast service. But in the very near future, you will have access to that interview that we're doing with Alfie talking about Dream Lovers, the gamification of relationships, which I thought was a really interesting book. And especially with the background that we have, personal history has a little bit of significance to us, which you're probably going to hear about in that interview that we'll be conducting. So what should I say about myself other than that I'm one of the hosts of Guerrilla History? Yeah, I come from a background in science, immunobiology. I left that field a little while ago because it was killing me, but I'm much happier now. But yeah, I also like to read a variety of topics. Of course, I really like political science, international affairs, and history. But like we said, we just read Dream Lovers, which is a book more on philosophy, psychoanalytics than any sort of politics and history, although there is a political component to it as well. I guess what kind of movies do you like to watch?
Ooh,
we've watched a bunch recently,
one.
so I figured I'd throw that out there.
Mostly Soviet, I'd say.
Give some examples. What are some that you really like?
Ooh, Love and Pigeons.
That's what we're watching right now.
Yeah, right in the middle of it. Then The Office Romance,
which we watched a week ago,
yeah,
2 weeks ago, and it was really nice.
It's so quotable, like not nearly as quotable as The Room, sure.
Which the listeners that are wondering about that, The Room is 2003.
I think so.
Either 2003 or 2005, but I think 2003, the movie by Tommy Wiseau, which is like widely credited as being as one of the worst movies ever recorded, but it's an eminently quotable movie, and I highly recommend everybody watch it.
Yeah.
Anyway, carry on.
I mean, it's really tough.
Well, what else do you like to watch?
What else I'm not gonna mention any of my guilty pleasures.
There's a lot.
Yeah. I like long TV shows, which you hate.
Mm-hmm.
Like The Vampire Diaries, which I will really watch the entirety of. Then what? Like everything in that domain, basically.
Yeah, whereas I don't watch really anything unless we're watching something Soviet together, or if she's watching something, I'll watch it with her because I'm a nice guy. Sometimes.
Yeah.
Emphasis on sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to keep this recording pretty short. Just the main reason we're recording this is to activate our channels. That way, when we start recording things that actually have topics, we're able to put them out. Is there anything else that you want to say before we wrap up this introduction? Anything that you want to say about what we're hoping to accomplish with the show? Anything about yourself that you want to mention? Oh, we have a poster behind us. And this is something that the viewers on YouTube will be able to see, but the podcast listeners will not be able to see. So we will kind of briefly describe it for the podcast listeners, and we will have a rotating set of posters that we will have displayed behind us because we have close to 100 reproductions of Soviet era posters. So what are we seeing on this poster behind us?
Should I translate it?
Well, the words did not come out. Explain what the picture looks like first for the people that are only listening to the podcast.
Sure. It's a middle-aged woman, and well, she looks like she's telling a boy off. She's holding a book in her hands, and the boy is all sad and looking down on the book. And the caption says, "Take care of your books." So, we could assume that the boy had been drawing in his book or something.
Yeah, we can see in the book itself, which the resolution on this computer isn't great. And I promise for people on the YouTube, the production quality will get better because we will be using her computer soon. And we have OBS and all of that. But for this introductory thing, we're just kind of flying by the seat of our pants. But yeah, you can see in the book, there's all kinds of writing and things on it. And this boy looks very, very sad that he's being told off. Does this say anything important? This red letters?
Well,
we'll let her put her glasses on.
Yeah. Love your books. They're a source of knowledge.
Okay.
It's a quote by Gorky.
So love your books. They're a source of knowledge. And I think that we'll leave that poster up for the next 1 or 2 episodes. We'll certainly have it up for the interview that we do with Alfie because we just hung it up. But yeah, in future episodes, you can expect the poster behind us to change every episode or two because we have a lot of Soviet era reproductions of posters. So, what do you think?
God, you really caught me off guard. I'm just excited about the upcoming interview because most of the time when you read a book and you know that the author is like passed away or something, or that you won't be able to get a hold of them, you think to yourself, oh, that's an interesting point. Oh, I wonder whether it also applies to this and that. And now we'll actually get to talk to the author and ask him all sorts of questions that we had.
Yeah, you mentioned that it's very disappointing when the author is dead.
Yeah.
What book are you reading right now? And I bring this up for a very specific reason.
Yeah, I'm reading The Bilingual Brain by an author that I'm pulling a blank on.
Isn't it Albert Costa?
Yeah, Albert Costa, yeah.
I believe so.
Yeah, I think so. And well, the book itself is really, really promising. So I'm almost halfway through the book, and
she only started it today or maybe yesterday. So yeah,
it's just the chapter in linguistics. It was the first chapter. I can't say that I learned a lot from it because I come from this background in linguistics, so I already knew a lot of it. But the second chapter takes a perspective of neurolinguistics and neuropsychology, which, well, it's got a lot of revelations for me. And then I thought to myself, why not bring this author on the show? Sure, he might be a very prominent one, but you never know until you try. And then I told Henry about it, and then
because this is my forte, is getting a hold of people that we want to talk to. This is the one thing I'm good at.
Well, yeah, on Guerrilla History, I got to co-host an interview with Ruth Wodak, which is one of my linguistic legends, actually. So, I do know that dreams come true. But then
when I'm doing the scheduling,
when you're doing the scheduling,
no, but I highly recommend listeners to go back to that Guerrilla History episode. The title of the episode is "The Politics of Fear, Far Right Populism, and Linguistic Discourses," or something along those lines. And yeah, Safie co-hosted that interview, and it was really, really good. We got very positive feedback to that episode. Anyway, carry on.
So, but then as soon as I looked up the author, I found out that he'd been gone for 4 years or so, and yeah, that upset me a lot.
Yeah, this happens to me too, especially because as we mentioned, I read a lot for Guerrilla History as well as just for my own personal pleasure. And whenever I see a book that seems like a topic that would be great for Guerrilla History, the first thing I do as I'm getting through the book, like towards the end of it, is I look and see, is there any contact information available for the author? That way we can potentially bring him or her on the show if they're interested. And when you find out that an author had recently passed, it is very, very disappointing because those conversations really do bring out a lot of the points that either you, so in this perspective, me, I think is interesting and useful from the work and trying to highlight that point for listeners, or on the other side of things, there's some points that are perhaps not as clear to me in terms of either their relevance or their importance, or even what the author means in that case. And being able to discuss that with the author does allow for a more holistic understanding of the work. And so being able to talk to authors like I do on Guerrilla History, as well as other shows that I've been on, like the David Feldman Show, being able to talk to those authors really is wonderful for me because it reiterates the main points of the work that I had been through, and also allows me to further understand parts of the book that perhaps I hadn't been able to fully understand before. So having that opportunity eliminated right out of hand because the author is dead is not the nicest.
Yeah, I totally relate to that, especially because since I read a lot in fiction as well, in fiction, most of the things are open to interpretation, so it's just how you see it. It might be a bit different from how the author originally saw it. And in nonfiction, you have all of those answers that you really, really want. No, you have all of those questions that you really want answers to, and then yeah, there is no like literally criticism works that would highlight or explain or like, I don't know, elaborate on something, and then you're just left there stranded. It's not the nicest feeling.
Yeah. So in any case, I think that to wrap up this conversation, what we're trying to hope, or what we're hoping to get through, what we're trying to hope, very good, Henry. What we're hoping to get across with this show is to bring some of the things that we've learned to people that are interested in it. We very well could get no audience, but that's also fine, because this is also mostly for us, I would say. Certainly, if you get anything useful out of something that we say or that one of the guests that we bring onto the show says, that is fantastic. We could not hope for something better. But even if we're the only ones that ever watch this, at least we have a chronicle of the things that we found interesting in the past, and we can always turn back to those in the future. So, if you don't like what we do, get out. Who cares?
That's the perfect wrap up.
Yeah,
I would say.
But no, I mean, we do care if you get something useful out of it. But like
otherwise,
we said,
we wouldn't be doing. I mean, I wouldn't be doing it. I don't know about you, but
well, we're mostly doing it for ourselves, at least in my opinion. But I do hope that you get something out of this. If you enjoy it, that's great. Like I said at the very top, we're not going to be doing this on a super regular basis, like every Tuesday at 5:00. Expect a new episode. No, that is not going to be what this show is like. This show is, for us to have some fun together, to learn together, and to hopefully allow other people to learn alongside of us. So that's really what we're hoping to get across here. And if you enjoy it, all the better.
Oh, I have a very suitable quote to wrap it up.
Perfect.
Not a quote, actually, saying
Close enough.
doesn't matter. Yeah. You know how they say that you can get to the bottom of something unless you teach it.
Right.
So that's how I don't know, I found support and proof for this myself in my teaching experience, and I'm also hoping to understand some things better through either explaining them or having them explained to me.
Yeah. And there you go. I think that that's a perfect explanation of what we're trying to do with this show, is kind of chronicle things, but also hopefully tease out some interesting things that we've found for a broader audience, while also deepening our knowledge of that as well at the same time.
Yeah, sounds good.
So on that note, we're going to wrap up. This has been
Safie, Henry.
And the show's name is
What the Huck.
There you go. Take care, everyone. See you soon.